everyone. Welcome to God, Sex, and Love. It's your girl, Miracle Sims. And tonight I'm going to be chatting with Miss Regina Devers. We're going to be discussing how thin is the line between changing who you are and compromise. So if you're ready for this chat, then stay tuned. Welcome back to God, Sex, and Love. I'm here with the lovely Miss Regina Devers. Hey, girl.
Hey.
Regina, how thin is the line between compromise and changing who you are?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a loaded question. I guess first we can look up the definition of compromise. Let's go to dictionary.com real quick, okay?
Okay, well, let us know then. Let us know.
I think that's good to know because, real talk, we're in church and different things like that, and we're on God, Sex, and Love. And a lot of times people hear about compromising. They're like, well, I ain't compromising my promise and, doing things to cause me to go backwards and compromise this and compromise that and never consider that they're also a part of the need to not be compromised as well. So you can say that you're not going to entertain certain things, but if you've already compromised who you are internally, like to your core, then you've already done it. You've already taken the steps towards compromising. So I'm really looking up this word compromise.
Okay.
We hear it in many circles, and sometimes I don't think it means what we think it means.
Girl, all the time, especially in these days and times, I have to do that as well to make sure I know what words mean, because people is using words in all kinds of ways.
And you be looking at them like, that word doesn't mean what you think it means at all.
Did we learn the same?
Like people who, just to deviate a little bit, people who use the wrong there, and there. That trips me out. I just, I don't get that. So when I look up the word compromise, it means a settlement of differences by mutual concessions, an agreement reached by adjustment or of conflicting or opposing claims. So I'm gonna stop right there. Mm-hmm. An agreement reached by adjustment of conflicting. So if I say, I don't want to go to Texas, but you want to go to Michigan. Okay, I don't want to go to Michigan either. Okay, then where do you want to go? Because you don't want to go to Texas. I don't want to go to Michigan. So we need to find somewhere in the middle. Let's go to Virginia. That's a compromise. Now, when it comes to something where you have a core value, like I don't date people who smoke or drink. I just don't. Mainly people who smoke. That is that's a turn off for me. The compromise comes when like how I said, I don't date people who smoke or drink. The drinking part is if you are a heavy drinker. If you're a social drinker, that does not bother me. But don't expect me to compromise who I am and drink with you. That's not gonna happen. So fellas, if you're thinking that, no, ain't gonna happen. So that's the compromise. When you change to your core being of who you are to appease other people. There's a lot of people who like to people please. And nothing is wrong with people pleasing. But when it becomes, who you are and how you move and, you can't function unless somebody validates you and all of that, that's a problem. And we see that, in the church circle. We see that in ministry. We see that on our jobs. We see that in school, in different facets of life. And ultimately, it's because people do not understand who they are, nor whose they are. For the believer, it's, whose they are. Mind you, we are all God's children because God created all of us. But some of us don't acknowledge him as father. Some of us still acknowledge the devil as the father because you can't serve two masters. So for me, it's like really important to know your core values, and that will help you not compromise in addition to your identity. So if you have an identity crisis, you're more likely to compromise. You'll basically bow down to what that person says. And even then, is it really a compromise or is it negating who you are, period? Because that is not a compromise. That is a cop-out. To me, that's a cop-out, because you should know it, have some idea of who you are and get around people who are interested in investing in who you are, which comes to the second part of the question, between changing who you are. You can only change who you are based off of who you know yourself to be. So if I'm making changes based off of how my mom was and how my mom did this and how my mom did that, then I'm not going based off of who I am. I'm going based off of who she says I am, which can be two very different things. And the upsetting part is that there are so many people who have so many gifts, talents, abilities, and all of that, and they change who they are based off of other people, not based off of who they are to better themselves. So you have people who they allow their external environment to bother who they are internally. So, I mean, the line between those two things to me is very thin, and the line that is blurred is identity. Because if you don't know who you are, you're going to fall into the compromising. You're going to be easy for people to prey on you. If you are changing who you are, then that means you know who you are. So it's either way, you know?
Yeah, listen, look, show is over. She didn't answer the question for y'all. Like,
I really did. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to answer it that quick, but I mean, and it's really important too, because relationships, like the different type of relationships, you gotta know who you are in those relationships. Are you the puller? Are you the pusher? Are you the encourager? Are you the crier? Are you the fighter? Are you the I'm gonna give up and quit, forget all of this, I'm done? You know, you gotta be real about who you are. But again, if you don't know who you are, you can't be true to who you are. And don't let it bubble up like years later. Like for me, for instance, please, I used to want to make sure that everybody else around me was okay before I made sure I was okay. Now that to me is a compromise, because I'm sitting up here, the conflict is that I need to sleep, but I'm up with you, talking to you. You ain't, you know what I'm saying? You're not, I don't mean to say you're not important, but if I don't get my sleep, what good am I to my business, to ministry, to whoever I'm gonna be married to my children, and in the future, you know, stuff like that. So we gotta think about things like that. Like, what are you willing to compromise? What are you willing to change about yourself once you do know yourself? And hopefully, you know, people change for the better and not the worse.
Exactly. I was sitting here thinking too, like something that I've observed, especially I guess in women. You know, I've observed people that, you know, they have no compromise, for example, and things that they probably should compromise on. You know what I mean? Not talking about core values and stuff like that, but just like some things, you know, especially when it comes to if you want a relationship or if you want to be with someone else and two becoming one in that whole situation. There needs to be some level of willingness to compromise on some things if needs be. Like, this may be a superficial example, but I know we kind of chatted on it earlier. But I was sharing with you about like makeup and stuff like that. Now me, I'm not somebody that rocks it every day, right? I'm somebody that'll put it on for a show, or I'll put it on for, you know, an event, or I'll do it like that. But I'm not somebody that'll, you know, rock it every day. Now I know there's women that, you know, they have to have their face, whatever the case is. Now my husband, he don't like makeup, right? Now I will say every now and then if he saw a picture of me modeling and I had some makeup on, he's like, oh, no, I know I pick at my girl all the time about makeup, but she looked good in this photo, or whatever the case is. I'm like, aha. But even with that being said, I know like when we ended up getting married, one of the things that he requested was that I not wear makeup. Now, I had to debate about it. You know, I had to think and pray about it because, you know, this is my wedding day, right? But the more I thought about it, the more I told. For me, it just was like, okay, I really thought about, well, one, what am I trying to do on that day, right? I know we're trying to get married, X, Y, and Z, but ultimately I want to look good for him, right? And if him seeing me all caked up with makeup wasn't going to, you know, look good to him, then what was the point, you know? And then I was thinking about things like weave or something like that, like, did I want to do that or not? Now, me, I'm a natural girl. Y'all know I got my locks now. But before then, I want to say I was, you know, rocking with a fro and stuff and all these different things. So around that time, I had just started my locks. And so I was, you know, debating about should I weave it up? Should I wear a wig? All this little different stuff that, honestly, girl, let me tell you about the wig life real quick. So there was a time, right, that I would wear wigs all the time for work, right? I would go to work and I would throw a wig on. And one day I was getting ready to do that and I was like, this is the most bizarre thing like ever. I'm pulling this wig out from under like the sink or somewhere, you know, I'm pulling this wig out to plop it on my head to go out. And I'm like, this is bizarre. Like this is crazy. Like if you really think about like what you're doing, you know, nothing against wigs, whatever the case is. Like I said, I don't mind throwing on a wig for a show or for something like that. But see, these are all the things that I was thinking about when he asked that of me for the wedding. So I just was like, you know what, Miracle? You know, at the end of the day, one, you're not somebody that wear makeup all the time anyway. Two, you're not somebody that wear wigs and stuff all the time either anyway. So here you are getting married to this man who loves you for who you are and don't really like none of that stuff anyway. So why do that? What's the point? Yeah, like what's the point? And so that was for me, that was the thing that led me to be like, all right, you know, eventually I ain't gonna say it was just the easiest decision because again, I had to debate about it. It was the wedding day. I'm like, whoa, what am I gonna do? You know, X, Y, and Z. But you know, I guess eventually I compromised and, you know, realized that I didn't need all of that to make me feel beautiful for that day. Like I was already beautiful regardless of right. Or not. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was a compromise. Now, yeah, you know, again, you see me rocking some makeup today. I'm trying something new with this blue lipstick and all this little stuff. I like to do stuff like this. And so, and every now and then, you know, I'll tell him, you know, he'll act funny. And like he can't kiss his sister when I got lipstick on or stuff like that. Even though there's lipsticks now that don't come out when you kiss, because, you know, they got like, special lipstick now there. But he still try to act funny about stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, hey, I'm still a girl. I still like to get dolled up every now and then, you know, and stuff like that, you know. Right. So you gotta understand that about me. You didn't marry like a complete plain Jane, like, you know what I mean? Like every now and then I might put on a sequin dress, like that's me. you know, you should know that about me or whatever the case is. So, so yeah, there's things that to me that's compromise. But some people probably wouldn't even consider that at all. You know what I mean? Like if their husband had requested that, they probably would. No, I'm gonna, you know, and this is what I'm gonna do, X, Y, Z. And I get that to a certain extent if you're doing it for yourself or whatever the case was. So yeah, if I decided to be like, no, I really want to wear a wig or I really wanted to, you know, wear the makeup, then I mean, I don't, you know, maybe he would compromise or whatever the case was. But for me, it wasn't that deep. So that's why I was like, oh, it's not that deep, so I can do without it, you know. But yeah, that's just a little example of a situation of a compromising situation for me. But I mean, that's just what outside appearance and stuff like that. I mean, obviously it can go deeper than that. But yeah, that's just the observation that I've made. Like sometimes in relationships, you might have to compromise a bit in order for two to become one. You know what I'm saying? So,
and that's the thing. I love that you said that because, like I was saying earlier, with relationships, you know, you got to know who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you allow somebody to tell you who you are, that makes it even more, it's so easy. And not saying that it's super hard when you do know, yourself, but it's way more easier to, it's not even a compromise. It's like, okay, well, I concede to this. I'm just gonna give up. And like, no, acknowledge the fact that, I do like to wear makeup every now and then, but because I love you and I respect you, you're my husband, to be like, we're going to be married for the rest of our lives. I don't want to make it seem like I don't care about what you want. And
Mm-hmm.
that's ultimately really, really what compromise is seeing that, okay, this is important to this party and this is important to this party. Where can we come in the middle and make, see that happy medium? It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to compromise when it's something that is mutually beneficial for both parties. But when it's just for you, that's selfish. That
Right.
is plain out selfish. And for
Right.
people who want to change, go ahead and do the work, but be ready to compromise. If you really want to be in a relationship, I mean, even with God, in our relationship with God, there's compromises that have to be done. If you
Okay.
use if you used to sexing it up and you say, Lord, I want to, be married and have a husband and all of that, you got to be willing to shut it down. I'm just saying.
I'm
I'm
about
just saying.
that's it. That's absolutely true. I think, and that's the thing, girl. Don't get me on this. Like, why do we get on this today? Like, the thing I have observed, like, people want to say that either they have a relationship with God, or they truly believe that, but it's like there's no change in your action. There's no, not say compromise, but there's no change with you. Like, at the end of the day, we can't be, as we want to say, living in sin, but then at the same time talking about, we truly love God. It's like something ain't mentioned here,
Right.
And say I'm perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? Everybody's, of course, daily, taking that cross daily or whatever the case is, and dying to yourself daily as well, whatever.
Jesus.
So not saying nobody's perfect over here, but what I'm saying is, like, like you just said, there's going to be things that you're going to have to change, especially in your relationship with Christ, and knowing where He wants to take you. There's going to be some things that you're going to see change. There's going to be some compromises that you're going to have to make. There's going to be some, things you have to sacrifice for a little while and be like, all right, well, like you just said, I mean, I have to stop doing this for a while in the hopes and then having faith that, the desires of my heart or my needs or whatever the case is will be met by my faithfulness and by my willingness to do what God told me to do in this area or whatever the case is. Because a lot of the times it's for our own growth, though. It's for our own growth and for our own maturity, as well as to again pour out to others and let people know, like, hey, this is something I struggle with. This is how God got me through, and He'll do the same thing for you. So, well, how can we tell that testimony if we keep staying where we at?
Right. So, how we had that panel discussion about what does the Christian do when they're horny, or the horny Christian, whatever, how we worded it. And there's a lot of truth in that. Like, people don't talk about that. We're willing to compromise for what we want, but we're not willing to compromise for what God wants for us, which is two different things, typically. Unless, our desires truly have become his desires have truly become our desires. That's something different. But like, for me, is it great that I have to wait? No, because I'm not a virgin. So that's the compromise that I have to make. I did not get there overnight. And still in some ways still struggle, because one, I know who I am. My identity is my identity. So with me being aware of who I am, I understand my flaws, my strengths, my weaknesses. And as those, even more things get revealed to me, okay, let me see where I need to make a change here. Okay, well, God, you said this, so I know you're not slack concerning your promises. I know that When you say something, your promises are yes and amen. Now that's something that I can't compromise on. God said it, he meant it, and keep it moving.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
this is a thin line though. It is. I would say it's a thin line, but it's a thicker line than the person who is struggling with, am I confident or am I arrogant? But that's a serious thin line right there. Has to do with the condition of your heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess I wonder, like, what can we actively do to, if we're somebody that struggles with this, right? If we struggle with either compromising in relationships, or if you're on the other end of the spectrum where you're compromising too much to the point where you're doing too much, sis. You know what I mean? Like, what can we do?
Oh God!
I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but
receive it.
But I mean, yeah, there can be sometimes, like, it's like we said, like when you're compromising values, you compromising, what God said to appease someone else, then you're doing too much, sis. But if you're not compromising enough to be like acknowledging your partner or whatever the case is, then you need to do a little more, sis. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, obviously, I guess there are two different ends of the spectrum. So I guess we can talk about one. Like, what can someone, if they're struggling with compromising to, I guess, achieve the goal, right? If you have to compromise a little bit to achieve whatever the goal is, like, and they're struggling with that because they don't want to compromise. They like, I don't want to, this ain't something I want to change, whatever the case is, but they clearly need to change. What can a person do in that type of situation?
I guess write out the pros and cons of it. Think about it. If it's something that's not harmful to you, if it's something that doesn't go against your core values, that, like I spoke about earlier, then consider the compromise. You only compromise when it is necessary to do so. You should be changing every day though. Like, to make yourself a better person, because you want to always present the best version of yourself. And a lot of us have to work at that. But for the person that's struggling on, do I compromise? You got to know what type of relationship it is. What is the other part that, so if it's another party, they're asking you to consider something and you're like, no, I don't do that. So what we can do is we can talk about it and come to a happy medium, and if we still can't come to an agreement, then maybe we need to table this for now and come back to it. Or just be like, listen, I'm not willing to compromise with that, period, point blank. Because compromising is a choice. Changing should not be a choice.
Interesting. So, okay, so then let's think about that person that's doing it too much then, right? Let's think about that person that it's like, yo, like, whatever you like.
Bark like a big dog. Oh, roof. The person that compromises too much, dear sir, dear ma'am, find out who you are. Because if you are compromising way too much, I'd be a living testimony to tell you that you probably don't know who you are. Because to me, when you're compromising too much, you're too concerned about what people think, what people have to say about you, how they're going to feel about you after the fact. But truth be told is that if you compromise too much, there are situations where you may be in a situation where you need somebody else to compromise with you and they won't do it. So you got to, if you don't know who you are, find out who you are so you're not doing all that.
That right there, man. I'm telling you, that made me have a flashback real quick. one of my situations, I've mentioned it before. Even long story short, basically what had happened was I did get to a place where I was unfamiliar with myself. Right, I was like, man, I am being very different from who I know to be. And then this person had put so much, like, just had so many critiques for me and all these different things, where it just kind of made me feel as if, like, do you even know me? Because the way you describe me don't even sound like me at all,
Wow.
To that point, right? Now, one of the things I had asked myself at that time, it was like, I'm doing so much to show my love and understanding of this person, but who is loving me now? You know what I mean? Like, who is doing that for me? Who is showing me some understanding and some compromise, or something, who? Because I'm doing it so much to pour out to you, but if we're in a relationship and you're not doing the same, then I'm over here by myself, constantly pouring out, and eventually I'm empty. I don't have nothing. I don't have. And so, yeah. And then, so at that point, I had to make some decisions. Now, I had to, and obviously, y'all see my decisions. Thank and praise God. Forgive me, y'all. No, we would not be here today. I'm telling you, y'all. I don't even know where I would be if I had not, realized, But yeah. Sometimes you have to ask yourself that, and if you really, really get to that place, one thing that I was thinking as well, as you just letting people know, like, getting to know themselves. If you really at the place where you don't know who you are, then start reading what the word said about who God says you are.
Yes.
Says you are beautifully and wonderfully made. He says, he got plans for you. You know what I mean? Like, get some of that into your spirit.
I'm the head, not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I'm chosen, not cursed. All of those wonderful things, fearfully and wonderfully made in his own image. And like, and if we take that a step further, God didn't compromise. When the devil, Lucifer, okay, when Lucifer lost his mind, God didn't compromise off of who he was to appease Lucifer. Lucifer had a minor case of, I think maybe Lucifer was black, because
Oh.
I was like, Lord, get it together, Lucifer. But that just goes to show you that when we know who we are, we're not willing to just take whatever. We're not gonna, if we're made in the likeness and image of God, truly, God is very decisive. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants. And he's not ever changing. He's not ever changing because he doesn't need to. He doesn't operate in time like we do. He's in eternity. So he's already at the end, at the beginning. That just blew my mind when I heard that. You already at the end, at the beginning. What? But,
right.
But those who struggle with either of these components, whether you compromise too little, you compromise too much, or even with changing who you are, identity is very much so at the root of it. Identity and boundaries. Identity and boundaries.
Girl, that right there, man. We can go on and on and on.
For sure.
Well, I don't know, Ms. Devers, is there anything else you want to leave the people with before we go?
Not that I can. Well, I guess the only thing is, I don't know who wrote it or said it, but to thine own self be true. Don't let nobody tell you who you are and cause you to come out of who you truly are. I would say surround yourself around people who are going to pour into you, invest into you who you are, invest in you to pull out of you who you are, and not necessarily pour who they are into you, and therefore you're pulling out who they are. There's a difference. Don't compromise with that. Be the original you. Everybody else is taken.
On that note, man, thank you so much, Regina Devers, y'all.
I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something today.
Yes, yes. Good night.
Wishing I would have a one night.
Thank you so much for watching Guys, Sex, and Love, and thank you to Miss Regina Devers for giving it to us straight and telling us how thin the line is between compromise and changing who you are. I hope that you all are encouraged and inspired and that you received what you needed this evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.